Hello again. Have you missed Leicester? Have you missed Crypto Talk Radio? Have you missed common sense? Have you missed basic sanity? Have you missed education? Have you missed enunciation, expression? Are you tired of the kids say the word cheat and say the word keck? You're in the right place if that's you. If you're one of those that wants the shill and the hype, I can't really help you out. I am who I am. I is who I is, as they used to say back in the old days, and I'm not going to change for nobody, no man, no whatever. So I'm just going to level set because there may be new people listening because I learned something. I'm going to cover that here in a second. I'm just going to level set. I am what I am, period. It doesn't matter ultimately what people have to, other people's styles. I respect however they want to do, whatever they want to do. And I'm not going to tell anybody that their style is any kind of wrong or, whatever. Everybody has their own style. Everybody has their own groove. And I celebrate everybody in their hustle. I gave a shout out to Crypto Realist 21 on the last episode. I still do. But I started noticing a pattern, folks. I started noticing more people talking conservative, talking common sense, talking basic, talking sane. Less people that were on the shill and the hype and there's less of it. I don't know what that's a symptom of, but I like it. I like it. Yes, I like it. I like it. I like that it feels at least like I'm having an impact. I can't say that I am. I'm saying it feels like I'm having an impact. And if so, I want to give credit to people who watch the channel and spread the word, one of which I'm going to shout out here in a little bit. I'm going to give a shout out about that. So right at the top, because I know this is what you're here for, let's go ahead and talk about as I've termed it, the LUNC challenge as it is. To refresh, and for those that are new, here's the parameters of the LUNC challenge and the bird we're going to do. And guess what? Last week's episode got a spike that is inexplicable. I suspect it's because of Lily Finance. I suspect that's why, based on the numbers. I'll be talking about that here soon. But we had a spike. Wasn't a lot, and that's okay, because I'm not actively advertising this business. I just said, if people show up, they show up. If they stay, they stay. And it is what it is. So as I ran the numbers for this one, I noticed something very important around this one's curve versus other ones. And that is that for the most part, this one had a pretty good start. People dialed in, they were interested, and the average view was roughly around the same as it's always been. And it tells me that for the most part, I'm consistent in my video to the point that the audience remains consistent. No problem. If it doesn't grow, no problem, because you're never going to hear me shill or beg for any of this. It's an exercise. It's a test as well to contribute as a member of the LUNC community. So with that said, based on what we've got and the stats I see, and based on my metrics over here, so we've got about what looks to be about $19-ish based on the stats I see. So that's actually not bad. Last week, just to refresh, was about $17.29. So about $19 will be burned to the Burn wallet. And again, if you are new, the Burn wallet can be referenced on our site on Twitter. Twitter address is at the bottom. Check that out, and you can see where we actually are sending to the Burn wallet, so you can verify what I'm saying to be the truth. So $19 more will get burned, free money to contribute to the community. And I'll be talking about Luna Classic here a little bit later on. Without further ado, let's first take a look at our stats for the big player, as is Ethereum right now. Ethereum now is up close to about $1,600. It actually got over 1,600, settled back down into a groove, and it's been now wavering between the 15.8 and 16.2-ish range. Here's the funny part, folks. I'm going to go to the month chart. Here's the month chart. Month was around down here. And if you notice, and this is key when people say zoom out, it's important of why you should do that. If you notice, it wavered roughly sideways before going up. It only had this one dip here, and that dip wasn't significant extreme. It was only down like $80 to $100. That's not bad at all. This is actually very good overall in the performance of Ethereum. So I'm still on record for what it's worth. I said if Ethereum goes beneath $900, I'll do live karaoke right here on the channel. This is how confident I am and was that Ethereum, the 900 we saw, was a blip, unlikely to repeat. There's a caveat to that, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But the big news was around Bitcoin. Bitcoin was able to get finally up past its resistance point. So it got up over the 20 and 200-ish. It did not sustain. And more about why that didn't happen will come a little bit later. I've got a little bit of information about that. But we're still in good spot. We're still in good shape overall, because what it means is that Bitcoin is primed for a run. We don't know when. We don't know what the catalyst is going to be, but it's primed for it. At some point, there's going to be something with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the other ones. Now, time will tell where we go from here. Does Bitcoin truly go on the run, as in, all the way up back to the 60 some odd and beyond? Does it not go on the run? All of these are uncertain. All these are unknown, and time will have to pass, especially November, because the expectation is that we are looking for that blowout in November. Well, November 7th is upon us, ladies and gentlemen, and I do believe that contributed somewhat to the bullish sentiment. Can I say for sure? No. But I do think that people are hopeful that we get greedy people back into government and that we move crypto back into a good spot. Now, all that said, I have maintained and continue to maintain the core coins cannot steer you wrong. That's all these bad boys up along the top here, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, even Ripple, XRP, Cardano, Compound, AVAX, etc. And the one I'm going to stop on is Doge. Doge recently went on a pump, pretty significant pump. It was down to like 3 cents and went all the way high as like 15 cents and then settled back down into a groove. I actually had one of our valued tribe members who was curious about it because it got close to his entry point because he was at a loss and it's back to the entry. He was curious what he thought and what I thought. And ultimately, I think the same thing I've always felt about Dogecoin. It doesn't do anything. And just so you understand, Doge pumps when there's something going on with Elon Musk. That's it. There's nothing else that causes a Doge pump other than Elon Musk did something. He did a thing, or he's expected to do a thing. That's what this was. Elon Musk was rumored to be finalizing the deal with Twitter. All of a sudden, there's this pump, a Doge. It then craps back down. The court case comes up, goes down even further. Apparently, then the court case, he settles. He says, okay, I'll go ahead and buy this thing. Okay, and then it goes up again slightly. Then he finalizes it. Then he releases a tweet where he's walking into Twitter headquarters with a kitchen sink, which is a joke. Everything but the kitchen sink, right, is a joke. Now it causes this unreasonable pump. This tweet is what caused the unreasonable pump of Dogecoin very recently, because he has finalized the last bits of this deal. And here's the thing. Twitter has been in trouble for a long time. It started with the former president in mid-2020 all the way to 2021. They've been bleeding customers. There's been bots like crazy. There's been a lot of arguable partisan censorship. Like, it's not a problem of you're managing your platform. That's never been the problem. The problem is when you do it for this slice over here, but you don't do it for this slice over here, that's what got him in trouble. And that was the result of what we saw now with Elon saying, I'm going to buy this business. All of this that they were doing caused Gab and Rumble and Parler and all these other competitors to spin up and take business away from Twitter, including Truth Social, which currently is a platform just for former President Donald Trump. But like Parler, recently Kanye West said he was going to acquire Parler and create a platform that has free speech. Kanye's been in a bunch of trouble for the same reasons. It's a lot of this cancel culture mentality that permeated and largely originated with Twitter, at least on the surface. So now Twitter gets Elon in place. All of a sudden, he's saying, okay, the bird is freed. There was another one he said. We started seeing fact check banners, even one on the current president, because he said something that wasn't true. And that fact check was people saying, no, this isn't true. Even your own Congress says it's not true. Well, that's what should have been in place all along, is that if you're going to do that kind of fact checking, realistic thing, number one, it should be the people. The regular people chime in and say, here's the data behind this. and we share it, and there's context, and people make a decision on their own of, I'm going to listen to this or I'm not, right? And now it's an even playing field. It's not just one side, with its like hidden people inside Twitter hipster headquarters making a decision. That was the change that Elon was talking about. This created then a bullish sentiment. And so Doge has been somewhat running. And subsequently to this, Doge chain, which I still say is garbage, pumped right alongside it. I'll get to that a little bit later. The point is, Dogecoin pumps anytime it's Elon Musk. It doesn't matter what it is. Anytime he's involved with something, Dogecoin pumps. Elon has also talked about potentially getting it to where Twitter would accept Dogecoin as payments through the Twitter ecosystem. That would create a bullish sentiment. So there's all these different tie-ins. Remember, Elon Musk is, I believe he's on the board of Doge, and he has at least input into the direction of Dogecoin. Where does this go? Nobody knows. I will tell you this, Dogecoin launched with 2 zeros in front of it. It jumped all the way up to just near 80 cents at its all-time high. It's never gotten back to that all-time high, but the point that it got that high means it's possible. Remember, Dogecoin has an unlimited supply, essentially. It prints all the time. So if it prints all the time and has a virtually unlimited supply, and just him walking into Twitter headquarters and putting now banners that make it fair and creating open communication platforms and all these things he's apparently trying to do, creates bullish sentiment to this small level. Imagine what might happen if he's able to make Dogecoin a payment conduit, or at least a tipping mechanism for Twitter. It's certainly going to create a strong bullish sentiment, because right now, as I said, Dogecoin doesn't do anything. That would again give it a utility. If it gets a utility of some kind, and in this case, one that no other cryptocurrency can even touch, which is that it's a backing cryptocurrency that is its own blockchain that powers one of the top level social media platforms. That's huge. There are platforms right now that do cryptocurrency, like Odyssey, the video platform. It has its own cryptocurrency for people that watch your videos and share and etc. But it has no real value because it's isolated to this one thing, and Odyssey does not have the market share. Twitter has market share. So now if you get Dogecoin involved, and the benefit with Elon is that he thinks outside the bubble of crypto. So if he can make it transparent, right? So you imagine a world where the Dogecoin blockchain itself is simply powering regular fiat transactions. That the bull potential is huge right there if it's done right. Will he do that? I don't know. I'm saying that that's where the bullish sentiment's coming from. The potential for the future, and turning something that doesn't do anything into something that does, while at the same time fixing a social media platform that started much more humble than it became. And I think that's really good. I want to give a quick shout out. This came to my attention early this morning. And by the way, I'm battling allergies, so if you hear the occasional sniffle or cough, that's where it's coming from. I'll work not to do it. But I saw this morning, and I want to give them a shout out, and I appreciate it. It has to do with Lily Finance. But I woke up and I was checking, and it's like, yes, there was people spreading the word about video we did last week on where we talked about Lily Finance. And we did a couple, I believe I've done like 3 or 4 videos on Lily Finance. And I want to appreciate basically this getting shared out. It was unexpected, did not expect it. Because if you watch any of my videos, I don't shill for a like, subscribe, hit the notify button for updates. I don't, because for me, if I'm that damn good, people will show up. Like I just have to keep being consistent and be good at what I do. And if I'm that, people should show up on their own. I shouldn't have to shill or beg, because I don't do this as a job. I do this as, I want to talk to people that are serious, not the kids that say the word jeet and say the word keck, but people that are serious about the cryptocurrency and hopefully want to help get it to the next world. So when I saw this, it was a great appreciation. And so user Tron Cryptotron, I want to give him a shout out. If he ever listens to this, he says he's subscribed and he's a podcast listener. So if he does eventually check this out, I do appreciate the share. It's awesome. And again, with Lily Finance itself, I think Lily Finance's biggest mistake was partnering with the cult leader on Saitama at the front, because I felt like it could have done much bigger things if that had not happened, and that was hard for it to get past. And now the future is, where does it go from here? It also had its pumps. What we saw on blockchain, a couple of people called it out. One whale dumped it was like hundreds of ETH worth of dump. It was a lot of dump. So that whale was just waiting. It was waiting on any climb. Here's where that whale's probably stupid. If that whale bought in after the fact, meaning they bought after it dumped 99%, they took pennies. They took the equivalent of pennies of what they could have if they just sat on it a little bit longer. So they probably were just eager to get out of it. Whether that's a mistake or not, I can't say. I'm saying that we saw that, yes, there was one whale that dumped a lot of ETH off this business. That's what caused the recent dump. It still has at least a buy signal around it. And with the pumps of Ethereum, which I talked about earlier, that's also contributing because it's part of the liquidity pair. So if Ethereum continues to go up, what I'm saying is Lily Finance has no choice but to also go up because it's part of the liquidity. But there's also a buy signal around Lily Finance, and that makes a very interesting future for that project. Now that it's separated from the cult on Saitama, it means it's no longer tethered to its issues. The downside that we have to watch out for overall with Lily Finance is, well, where do you go from here? I know it was trying to get on the tier 1 exchange. While that's good from a awareness and availability and volume perspective, it also means that the token will be subject to pump and dump activities. I don't believe, I'm not sure, but I don't believe Lily Finance has a burn mechanic. If it doesn't, that may make sense, because if you don't, as I called out in the last video, the supply is significant. So if you can't get the supply down somehow, then I think it runs the risk of things like Dogezilla, where it's just a pump and dump type pattern, and it never gets to strong positive price movement. If it does have a burn mechanic, good. It means that it's like a 5-year play-ish because of the volume expectations. And over time, hopefully it'll get to where it's able to move past where it's at. And I think that's exciting, at least to me anyway. Anybody that's listened to my channel for a while has heard me crap on the concept of metaverse. I don't believe in it. I think it's stupid. I understand why. But, I come from the era of like Second Life. And for those too young to know, Second Life is a game. It still exists. And it was the initial phase of what we now try to describe as the metaverse, the idea that you have your own avatar living in this virtual world. And at the time, it was huge. You had all these different stores that bought in, your Pizza Huts of the world, etc. And in here, they did concerts in there, all this, right? It still runs. There's all this land available and all these people that still use it, mostly people from my generation and older. But it didn't succeed by definition of succeed. It wasn't really a success by core definition. It still exists, but it never thrived beyond where it ended, right? So I've crapped on it because I don't believe what they're trying to do with it is ever going to succeed. This idea that everybody should be a digital avatar, I don't believe we ever will get to that point, at least not in the lifespans of everybody listening on this right now. It's a pipe dream started by the idiot Zuckerberg off just saying a word and everybody ran with it, and it's never going to succeed. We can't even get virtual reality right. We can't get mixed reality right. So what makes you think that grown people, Joe out in Montana, the farmer, is not going to be sitting on the computer, 24 hours a day interacting with the virtual world? Joe is going to want to pick up the phone and call somebody and have a human take his pizza order because that's what he's used to. People are going to be writing on paper and handing it to somebody at the business, at the workplace. This is normal. Books are a normal thing. Despite the fact that there's Kindles and Nooks and all sorts of e-readers, people still read normal books. Why? Because that's just the way it is. So I saw an article out of Japan where they were using the metaverse to actually deal with a problem. It's actually trying to use it to solve a problem. I actually believe it's stupid, but at least it's trying to solve something. In Japan, apparently, they have an absenteeism problem. They have a situation where kids just simply ain't showing up to school. Now, I don't know what's different, frankly, in Japan and why the laws are so lax, but I know out in the US, they don't tolerate significant absenteeism. You got to show up or your parents are getting a visit. So I don't know why in Japan it's even allowed to get to the point of, quote, at least 30 days absent. That's mind-boggling to me. So I don't know. So they said, okay, well, rather than fix the problem, which is deal with the parents who ain't parenting their kids right, we'll just set up metaverse, since everybody in Japan walks around with their phones and sits on the train with their phones, and there at least they'll be in school somewhat and they'll hear the lesson. I'm critical of them trying to do something like this. I celebrate that at least they're trying to solve the problem. Why is it a problem? Like, why do you allow it in the first place? And how did it get so bad? Well, I believe technology, the rise of technology, is what contributes to this, because as you distract kids, if all you do is hand them a tablet or a phone as they're growing up, this is likely to happen. They're distracted largely by social media. And they don't see a priority in going through education because they think they can Google everything. They think they can hear from their friends on everything. They think they can tweet and get an answer on everything. And there's no verification of any of that information to be valid. So let's just throw more technology at the problem. Okay, I don't celebrate it, don't agree with this, but at least it's something. But I don't agree with, again, why is it a problem? Like here, quote, the child has not physically attended school in over 2 years. Are you serious? A child has not attended school in over 2 years. Out in the US, that's unheard of. It's unheard of. I can't, like, it's literally truancy. And at a point when you're truant a number of times, they're going to come after your parents. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. And I'm trying to think of the people I grew up with. No, none of us were out hardly at all that much. Even if I didn't want to go to a certain class, I still went to the school. I just didn't do that class, right? So there was one time I recall a PE. I couldn't stand PE, not because of the workout, but because sports were stupid, right? But I still went. I just didn't suit up. So that's a non-suit, but I still showed up, right? But to not show up for 2 years, it's just I don't know. So why am I calling this out? It is solving a problem. So that's a utility of some kind. It's certainly better than what I've seen, which is a bunch of garbage games and a dog walking in the woods. It at least solves a problem, or at least works around the problem. It is speaking outside the bubble because it's a known thing. It does increase adoption of it. I don't know if it's the right answer. I'm talking ethically, right? I don't know if it's the right answer long term because what precedent does that set? Now, that said, yeah, I don't see other countries doing this. It's a Japan only thing, and Japan's always been unique. Same with India, has been unique in approach. And so maybe that causes some bullish sentiment overall with metaverse-based projects. I don't know. But the metaverse-based projects I've seen are all about games and dogs walking in the woods. So, question is, do we mature metaverse to actually support use cases like this? Like, I can see a use case for metaverse for somebody who's disabled, right? Because if they're disabled, they physically can't go on a regular basis to classrooms and all this, sit and let somebody lecture to you. Let's say accessibility, right? Somebody can't, they're hard of hearing. And for those that don't know, this stream today, we have live captions that we're testing. Well, it's a great example of where online can help bridge the gap. If somebody's disabled and they can't hear the teacher, that person's at a loss, right? So there are these opportunities. The question is whether they're going to use those to actually make metaverse have a value, not just be a fun thing. And the problem is that metaverse right now projects have been spearheaded by the kids to say we're G's. That's the ones that are in front of it. So to them, it's all about NFTs because they see that the Bored Apes is selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's all about games because Shiv has a dog walking in the woods. Like, they're focused on the wrong thing. They're not focused on actually making it useful to people. They're focused on making it fun. We already have stuff for fun. That's what games are for. And games aren't going to go away. And you can have games without a metaverse. So to me, my summary of this is, I understand what you're trying to do. I don't think it's the right answer. Now, I say that if there's a game project, if there's somebody out there right now that's considering creating a metaverse project and they are going to actually bring me the world, as in from .hack, if you're going to bring me this, I'll celebrate you. Okay. When I said games, this I want. Okay. This is the metaverse I want. That's what I want. If you can bring me this, I'll support your metaverse. Until I get that, I'm not with it. That's all I'm saying there. Bitcoin. People didn't know that with the recent pumps, and I said that it started to waver a little bit. What people didn't understand, I shouldn't say they didn't know. They did. They didn't understand. There were whales sitting on major bags of Bitcoin riding out the storm all this time. And nobody thought about this because people were just too busy distracted with the garbage and with Ethereum. But there were whales that were sitting on bags. So when this thing got all the way up to 60 some odd, there were certain people that didn't sell. They sat on it. Like Jim Cramer, he's like, yeah, I sold the fake money to use real money to pay off my house. There were people that didn't. They sat on it from the peak. They sat on it, never sold. True diamond hands by definition. These people now, the expectation is they may sell as it starts to go back up. A, because they may want to get out. That's one. Two, because of the damage of the pandemic and all the stuff the government did, and they just need the money, right? Three, because they may want to shift to another project. 4, because they may want to invest in something like, say, a building project or something else, and they want that capital out there. 5, because they're just taking profits and they want to get into multiple other projects. 6, because they expect it to go higher than the 68,000 it peaked at. So the warning, and it's simply a warning so people understand, is that there were whales sitting on major bags of Bitcoin. So we're not past the worst of it. Will it stop the upward momentum? It depends. It depends on how fast we can go up, the velocity. What's the speed we can go up? If we can't get the blowout in November, I say we're in for another bear winter. I believe that if we keep the current inept in office, the United States at least, we're not going anywhere anytime soon, because they are people that are anti-crypto. We need greedy people, almost cussed right there, greedy people back in office like you and I, who want crypto to succeed because he knows it stacks their bags. Like, remember, Ted Cruz came out and admitted he has Bitcoin and he's cool with it. That means you need people that think like him. I guarantee some of the, like Donald Trump is like, I like you down there, right? That's fine. But the point is, people around all these other ones, they're all in that. They're all in crypto because they know there's profit potential. And even Trump will come around eventually. They're greedy. That's what they are. That's why they need to be in office, because they're greedy. The current people are not greedy. They're not greedy on your behalf. They're greedy on themselves. So because they're greedy on themselves, like Pelosi, she stacks bags, I guarantee you. And she's probably dumped projects, I guarantee you. So as long as they're in office, crypto's not going to go anywhere. And so what I'm saying is the velocity is going to depend on November. I've said if we get a blowout in November, a true blowout, Congress is totally shifted around. We take power away from the current people that are there and shift it to greedy people. Whoever the greedy people is, I don't even care. Point is, it can't be the two that are there now. The two that violate people's rights and trample people's rights cannot cause a bull run. It's got to be greedy people that are just like, man, I don't care what you do, as long as you freaking pay some taxes on people. That's literally who you got to have. Because if you have that, it's like, no, we're not going to be the Gary Gensler's of the world, and we're not locking this over down. We're not creating this new crypto org. We're not doing all that stuff. I guarantee you it's going to have a bull. I guarantee you. Question is, will we get the blowout in November? Because that's necessary, in my opinion. And if we do, and we have enough of a velocity, it'll help negate what we expect to happen when these whales start to dump off the bags that they have for Bitcoin. Then those people might actually stack more, because they might buy it even if it's on the way up, because it's still a discount for them, especially if they bought it at 60. Now you DCA, right? And you buy more as it goes up, you're DCAing yourself, which is what we want them to do. We want them to DCA in, not dump out for the heck of it. Or if you take profits, don't just completely kill it, right? But take moderate profits every now and then as it goes up, but you're still DCAing back in to a greater level. We also have to see what happens with the liquidations, because with liquidations, of course, that sells. So there's certainly going to be people that have been shorting for a long time, and they're going to get hurt. And that actually hit Doge. There was a Doge, I think it's Doge 3XS or something like that, on KuCoin. And there were people getting wrecked because Dogecoin started running, right? When it's short, if Doge starts running, these guys get killed. It went from $1 some odd on the 3XS down to like 2 cents. They got killed, totally killed, because they didn't understand Dogecoin is going to pump anytime something happens with Elon Musk. That's the game. It's all a game. The whole thing is a game. And if you can't time that game right, you're going to get toast. And that's by design. That's how it's supposed to be. It's actually good. But some people simply aren't good at it, at least not in my opinion. Let me talk about DAOs real quick. And no, I don't care about you. Everybody has a DAO these days. DAO, Maker DAO and Olympus DAO and, all these DAOs. DAO, right? There's now starting to be, and I saw with Satama, although it doesn't have a DAO, I started to connect the dots. These DAOs are starting to build up in places that are tax havens, and specifically United States tax havens. This was largely triggered off of what, again, the Gary Genslers and the Jerome Powells of the world keep talking about in terms of going after cryptocurrency and getting more data around crypto. Now, I'm going to warn you, and I'm just going to briefly talk about this and warn you. You can try to hide and duck the smoke all you care to. If they want to come after you, they can find your stuff, man. Because here's the thing. If your cryptocurrency has ever touched a centralized exchange, that means they know how to get back to your wallet. That means they're going to come after you if they really want to, they can come after you and what's in your wallet, because that's what happens when you go to a central exchange. Central exchange is necessary when you're getting fiat involved. Fiat, they have all that data. They got all that smoke. I don't care what exchange it is. I don't care if you think like your exchange said, yeah, we don't talk to the government. I guarantee you, they've got documents and reports and queries and probably a direct API to allow anybody in the United States government full access to that transaction. And the thing is, it's all blockchain. So if you had something in this centralized exchange, whether you sent to or sent from, or somebody sent to you, now your wallet address is open, fair game. That means they can query it because blockchain's public, and they can see what's in your freaking wallet, and they can see the value of what's in your wallet. They can see where you sent it. They can see what you did with it. The moment you touch a central exchange, you lose all sense of anonymity, as it were. The central exchange has always been the risk point, because that's where the data tracking and data reporting and data query comes into play. The DAOs, in their mind, it is another store of something. It's a data source that they expect that, yes, the U.S. government's going to come after them and say, you got to give us an accounting of what the heck you're doing with people's money, because it's essentially securing assets to do a thing, which fails the Howey test, or in this case, passes the Howey test, and thus makes it subject to whatever regulatory scrutiny. So my point is that they were seeing more DAOs set up in tax havens, U.S. tax havens. And all I'm saying to everybody listening to me here or on the podcast at cryptotalkradio.net, I'm telling you, it ain't gonna matter. If they want to find your money, they will find your money. And here's the thing. If you're in a place that's purposely trying to hide the money, it's going to be a lot more worse to you. But I do encourage you to take a look and read through everything that's happening with DAO. If you're in something that is DAO, I encourage you to be aware and familiar with the way they work and how they're set up and where they're set up, because it's essentially your assets. It's essentially your money. They're not going to be on the hook. You're going to be on the hook because it's associated back to you. It's associated back to your wallet in some form, shape, or fashion. So just be careful. I'm not saying don't go into them. I'm saying just be aware of what it is. If you're in the United States, understand that certain states actually are trying to legalize and welcome DAOs. They're trying to make them regulatory friendly, and they're trying to set the basis for everything that happens in the future. However, we got a lot of work to do because it's state by state by state. If you don't live in that state, you are not protected by those laws. So you'd have to live in states that, frankly, nobody wants to live in order to get those benefits. Like, I actually want to get the heck out of Nevada because Nevada isn't really friendly to anything that's remotely gambling, sure, but I'd have to go to Wyoming. Wyoming's fine, from a cost perspective, but it's, geez, the cold, when it gets cold, and I don't mind cold, but it's a level up. And then Delaware, nobody wants to live in Delaware, but these are the only two states because nobody wants to live there. They pass these laws to appeal to people, to get more people in there, to get more tax revenue. So Wyoming and Delaware are the two that have embraced DAOs. They've created a regulatory framework for DAOs and protections around cryptocurrency. For the most part, Wyoming has been okay with mining, Bitcoin mining. So you have a choice. If you're in the United States, you can absolutely uproot and move to a crypto-friendly state should you choose. Understand that today, the crypto-friendly states are the states that nobody wants to live in unless you're nuts. But they're there in case you choose. And for DAOs, make sure that if your money is in a DAO in any form, be aware of where it's hosted. Where are they setting up? Where's their headquarters? Where is this actually being stored? If it's being stored in one of these tax havens, just be aware that doesn't protect you at all. It protects them. The U.S. can still come after you because they can still trace it back to you in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter that it's blockchain. If you've ever touched a central exchange, you're going to be on the hook for whatever they choose to have you be on the hook for. That's all I'm saying about that. Do Rug Pull, aka Do Kwon, on the Terra, usually Terra, who's on the run but claims he's on the run. There's another lawsuit about this guy. He recently had said, I'm not on the run. I'm right here. And he tweets all the time. And of course, hopefully, I hope that Elon was an investor in the old Terra. And Elon says, you know what? Screw this guy. I'm going to release all the data and all the IPs and location information about how to track this dude from his mobile device and all that. Anyway, another lawsuit coming around this. Anchor protocols included in this. So this is continuing to go. It's not going to stop. He's not going to get, I said it, I think it was like a month ago. He's not going to get away. There's a lot of people hunting this dude down. Even some very shady circles are looking for this guy because he wrecked a lot of people. It's not going to end. And as long as he keeps trying to duck the smoke and act arrogant about it, he's only making it worse on himself. Because let's look at the contrast. You got this idiot who tweets, he's like, yeah, I'm still here, I'm still writing code, and doesn't take accountability for any of it. He said, it was my fault it failed, but he didn't acknowledge I made a bad decision in the fork. I should not have done the fork. I should have taken the time to fix it so that I could make people whole. He didn't do that. He didn't acknowledge he should make people whole. He took money and ran. He's not trying to reimburse anybody. You get somebody like this, right? Contrast that with Julian Assange, right? Julian Assange basically said, you know what? I'm exposing something that's a known something here. And we attack him. We totally attack him. We want to extradite him. We go after him vociferously. Roman Polanski does a thing decades ago. The victim says, don't worry about it. It's not worth it. And they're still going after him. They'll go after these cats like nuts. But with him, it's just a bunch of smoke. Not anywhere near the same aggression going after him. Don't you find that kind of shady? I'm going to tinfoil it and say certain people in the United States government, potentially, I have no evidence of this, but certain people in the United States government have an agenda. And I'm just going to leave that wherever you want to think about it. So, real quick, Luna Classic. The question keeps coming up, and frankly, I'm getting sick of hearing the question, but I'm going to try my best to lay it at ease from my angle. Can Terra Luna Classic get to $1? I understand. There's this understanding of desperation. Last week, I specifically said, with the current, quoting myself, with the current supply, it cannot get beyond a penny. It's not possible in the current supply. There is a plan to do burns to get the supply down with a target of 10 billion. The problem is that the burn has not really worked out like they expected. They're not burning significant of the supply. We're starting to see more validators, and I want to talk about validators briefly here in a second. We're starting to see more validators come up. Some of the validators are offering to do a burn. Happy Caddy Crypto is one of them. I do recommend checking him out. Really great person, great channel, and he's setting up a validator, and his has a burn. That's fine. The point is you still have this problem, which is that Luna Classic is still pegged to UST. They haven't solved that. In fact, nobody focused on it. When Terra Rebels first launched, I have a video in the archive. I recommend you check it out. I said, manage your hopium because all they're doing is whatever the proposals say to do. They can't guarantee anything. They can't promise anything. They don't know for sure that it will or won't work. They're just doing what the proposals say to do because somebody should do it. That's the whole point of the DAO. Well, all the proposals have been around the burn. Burn, burn, burn. The burn's the word. That's all it's been. They then throw out the 1.2. Sounds good. People cheer. CZ comes out and says, this ain't going to work. You're just going to, it's a disincentive. People aren't going to buy if you throw this against them. They turn it on. The volume tanks. Just like he said it would, right? Now there's another proposal. It says 0.2%. Let's change the tax, but lower the tax. Well, that means it's going to take longer to get to a thing. You still don't have the volume back. You still don't have a utility. You still haven't repegged. Like there's all these fundamental problems. And then I covered that the Terra Rebels community, in this case, Discord, is going haywire because you got people basically fudding, essentially, because they're putting out false information to decrease sentiment. And then the Terra Rebels team, I can't figure, I know why, but I don't like it, spinning up a telescam. You're just going to entice the kids to say they were Jeet and all the garbage that tanks so many other projects because you're appealing to the crap that's out there. So now sentiment is harmed. Sentiment is right now in the way. The tax is right behind it. With the tax, I said, I'm not against the tax. I'm saying it's stupid to tax buys. It's a disincentive to buying it. If you have that much supply, encourage people to buy it up. If nothing else, create the tax on the sells because when it gets to a peak, those whales that dump, they don't care about the tax. So tax the sells, do it like 2%. Don't tax the buys. They want to tax the staking. I yanked all mine out. I'm like, screw that. You are not going to tax my stake. You're not going to tax my withdrawal of the stake. You're not going to tax the deposit of the stake because of staking. Screw you. No, that's not acceptable. So you've got all these fundamental problems all around, unfortunately, people being given hopium around Terra Luna Classic and Terra Rebels. All they were there to do is do what the proposal said to do. They didn't have a plan. They're spitballing. Everybody's spitballing, and ultimately they're ducking the one key point around this business, which is that You have to repeg to UST because that's how Luna Classic was built. They never really solved it. They never really wanted to talk about it. To this day, they haven't really done anything around UST and the repeg. There's a plan to do it. I'm saying they haven't done it yet. Do you realize how long this has been out there? And so then the temporary pump that happened way back yonder got people excited about the burn that's supposed to happen, but you're still missing that element of the repeg, which means it's not going to go anywhere. If you're okay with the long play, it's fine. That I said, it's a long play. This is going to take a lot. It took a long time to get to the point of the 100 some odd. It's going to take a long time to get anywhere close to a penny, and it's going to take a long time to burn off that supply. It is what it is. But I want anybody listening to me, understand there's all these fundamental issues with Luna Classic right now that are contributing to its price barely moving. So when we start talking about $1, get that out of your mind. We're nowhere close to being ready for that because the supply is too dang high. It's still over 6 trillion. The whole thing had $1 trillion in market cap. So it's not realistic. You have to get rid of significant supply to get anywhere close to a penny. Then if the supply gets down enough, you can get to the 10 cents. Then you might be able to get to the $1. We're nowhere close to $1 in reality. Honestly, I'll say that. I have no problem saying that. How likely is it to get to 10 cents? It's going to depend on sentiment, number one. Supply, number two. And Terra Rebels has to, at some point, address the UST repeg, which they have a plan for, but we don't know if it's going to work. All of that has to play out. I'm saying to you folks, Luna Classic is a long play. It's a long play no matter how you slice it. Whether you buy now or you buy later, it's a long play. Don't expect anything significant I'll even say it, from this. Don't expect anything until minimum mid-2023. I'll say it. Videos stay up till I pass away. And you can check me and see if I get it wrong because this pisses me off every single time I keep hearing it. I understand why I hear it. It's just creating false hopium for people. Stop. No, you're not going to get close to this anywhere in the near future because we haven't fixed the fundamental issues inherent with it. I'm on record on that. Speaking of, here's Luna Classic's chart. And as you notice, after that pump that it got all the way up to 5, and then it went back down and started going sideways. And if you notice on the lines, it's still kind of this wave deal, sideways business. I want to stress, this is because largely of a volume taper off. It's not because of anything other than a volume taper off. You see, if we don't have enough buy volume happening to offset the sell volume happening, you're going to see this business. You know that because of these bars down here, down at the bottom. Notice very recently we had a significant buy, millions of dollars worth of buy of Luna Classic as people started stacking bags. The stacking of the bags largely preceded what people anticipate is a run on Luna Classic, which is based on, if you look at the lines here, they start to indicate a potential trend to the upside. I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying that they appear to show that there's a trend to the upside after so much down that we're getting to the point where it's primed to run. This one does seem to run lockstep with most of the other core coins. So as we see BNB, for example, is well over 300 now, which is impressive. It means that there's an opportunity for Luna Classic to get to the point. What harms and what hinders Luna Classic's velocity is the sentiment. That's why I said that sentiment is first. If you keep introducing these garbage people into their community who do nothing but naysay the project and accuse the Terra Rebels people of misleading when they didn't, and they create false hopium and they get it in their mind that they're going to be millionaires overnight, you're going to hurt this momentum. Do I think Luna Classic gets to a peak? Absolutely. Do I think Luna Classic gets close at least to a penny? Absolutely. All I'm saying is mid-2023 at the earliest before you see any more significant run anywhere close to what you saw back here for Luna Classic. Now, I'm on record. I do not believe Luna Classic can fail. I don't believe it can because of at least the organic community sentiment, generically speaking. I'm going to talk about that on a later point in one of my bullets as I wrap up the rest of this here. But I want to stress, I don't think it can fail. I'm saying that don't expect to be a millionaire overnight either. This is a long play, is Luna Classic. So now, my last note, as requested by one of our tribe members who was curious about, I have not done an updated Fav5. And the reason I haven't done an updated Fav5 is that much didn't change. but we did have some changes. So I am going to talk about my updated Fav5. To refresh, the Fav5 is what 5 projects am I so confident about right now and why? And so to run down that list from before, just to give you a sense of where it was, I can talk on top of my head. So Elk Finance was one of them. Elk Finance, I love it, but Elk Finance is one of them. Market Move is another one. Angie Eco was another one. Everrise, and then Parabolic. Those are my 5 that I left off with previously. So my current 5, and you're going to see me disappear for this, but my current 5, of course, Market Move remains one of my favorite 5. Even now, not because of the token itself, but because of the project. It's a great project. It's a great tool. I think it's one of the best tools for watching graphs, one of the best tools for audits. You can run audits on Binance tokens, and it gives you results about what the token's doing, the holder counts, and everything. I can't speak highly enough about what Market Move brings to the table. I think it'll always be one of my Fav5 strong contender for the future. As we come out of whatever this is, I think it's going to be one of those mainstays. Like we currently treat CoinMarketCap as garbage as it is. Market Move's still up on that list. The other one up on the list is Elk Finance. I don't use Elk Finance as much as I did before, but now the token itself has a bullish sentiment for me. So Elk Finance, just to briefly describe it, it has tokens on every part of all blockchains. So they have an Elk token on every single blockchain. And with the reason I like them so much is you can go to Elk, and let's say I need gas on Avalanche C-Chain. You can go to Elk, you can take your, let's say it's, I don't know, Doge or whatever. Let's do something better. Something that's on the Ethereum chain. SHIB, right? You can trade your SHIB out for Ethereum. You take your Ethereum, you buy Elk on Ethereum, but there's a bridge they have, and you tell it, I want to get Elk on Avalanche, but when you give me Elk on Avalanche, I want a piece of it, $1 of it as gas, so that you can then buy into whatever Avalanche projects. Because if you know the gas things, it's hard to get the gas when you're going to a new blockchain. You can go to a centralized exchange, but remember what I told you. The moment you touch that centralized exchange, you're fair game for any government entity. So with Elk being able to interplay between the different exchanges or the different blockchains and get gas on the different chains so that you can buy into those projects that are on a different chain you've never been on before, that means you don't have to go to the central exchange to do it. But I also have a bullish sentiment around this token because this token started to have some strong price movement when Ethereum was starting to peak, right when it started to peak. I saw strong price movement out of it, very similar to what I started to see with AVAX itself, actually. I just saw that, okay, this one might even get to $1 if it gets to a point where it's got strong enough use. And because of the way it works, it has an inherent utility that can't be understated. Love Elk Finance, always will love Elk Finance. So Market Move, Elk Finance. I'm still pretty strong on Angie Eco. I think that Angie is doing the right stuff at the right time with the right people. I think Angie Eco is a strong contender for the future. I think Angie, what held it back is when it launched. I think it launched at a point, this used to be something, Safe Panda, I believe it was, if you know that. And they rebranded it. They created this whole strategy. They did posters all over the place. They did all this great marketing and outreach to people. And then they started building utilities. And they've been building, even more than Everrise. And I speak highly of them. Angie's been killing it in terms of building utility during the bear market. So I think highly of them. They're a great team of people. They're actually very nice devs itself. I don't get the sense they've killed their community yet. And I'm excited to see where they go once we get into a bull run, where we go with this one, because it feels like they set all the things in place for a strong run in the future, at least from what I can tell anyway. So Angie Eco stays on my list for now. And I stress this, for now, Everrise is still on my list. Everrise has all these, as you see on the image there, has all these utilities backing it, and they have largely killed it in terms of outside the crypto bubble utilities. Everlock, right? Everown. Everlock is around the liquidity. Everown is around the contract, the bridge they have, the swap they have. If you haven't used their swap, I think it's one of the best swaps there is, frankly. EverWallet to be able to help protect your wallet. EverMigrate for cleaner migration projects. So like if a project has decided to go to V2 or V3 or even V4 like Para, EverMigrate has always worked slick and clean. Love it. EverSale, which is for a launch pad for ICOs for, instead of the pre-sale like Pink Scam. things. It's actually a safer way to do it. And then the NFT staking lab. So I just got my first two completed staking NFTs. So those are now mine for staking the Rise token in their ecosystem. The only thing I don't like on Everrise, I'll just call it three. Number one, they duck the smoke. They don't want to talk on the podcast so I can help them in the things that I see they can improve. So they duck the smoke. I don't like that. Their admins and Reddit are cool, but their devs I think are a joke. Can't stand it. Number two, there's some buggy behavior that they've never addressed in the NFT stakes what they did is for the V1 that they had, they decided to distribute all the liquidity to all the holders, but they did it as a game. So you have to dial in, it's like 2 a.m. You got to dial in and hit a claim button, and it's supposed to give you, and in some cases, it's like hundreds of dollars. It doesn't work. And I tried it on 2 different blockchains. It doesn't work, and they don't want to fix it. Of course, they don't want to talk to Leicester, so I can help them say, hey, I'll show you, and hopefully get it fixed for people. So I don't like that. Don't care for that. And then number three, their momentum seems to have slowed. They're not nearly as aggressive as they once were. That may be because of the bear market, but they were killing it even during the bear. So something's gone different where they don't have the same aggression in changing the game. Like as I showed with Angie, Angie's still killing it with utilities. And I don't know what changed. So I'm not criticizing their overall project. I think it's good. I'm saying it feels like they're falling behind. I want to see more of them. I want to see them stop ducking smoke, most importantly, and actually talk, because they'll talk to all other people like David Gockstein, who's an idiot. They'll talk to them, but they won't talk to me. And if you listen to my HODL token episode, it's pretty clear I'm going to ask some questions they've never been hit with that are designed to actually help them. And I put them over numerous times. So it is what it is. So then I got rid of the one that I dropped off because it was frankly pissing. I'll be honest, it was pissing me off. And so I had to send them to what I call the Fav5, as in these ones are now failures, is Parabolic. I got rid of Parabolic because Parabolic got breached because they had the game. I talked about this in last week, but they had the game. They outsourced it to a developer. The developer breached it. That didn't bother me. What bothered me is they started forcing people to telescam. And I don't like that because they weren't doing that before. And so it seems like they gave up on the game concept and they started pushing people to mind music, which I'm not a fan of. So I had to drop Parabolic off, and instead in its place, after I thought about it a little bit, I was debating this one, but I thought about it, and I think Zilliqa. So Zilliqa, I did this on the podcast, cryptotalkradio.net. Zilliqa is what they were trying to do was build a gaming console that uses Web3 and blockchain technology underneath it. If you didn't know, Google Stadia, which was one of the cloud gaming platforms, Phil Harrison killed the business just like he did when he was at Sony, and he killed Google Stadia. So now that left cloud gaming in a lurch. Now all you really have is Microsoft and to a lesser degree Epic. So Google Stadia was supposed to be this game-changing thing with cloud, right? Well, when Zilliqa was talking about we can use Web3 and blockchain technologies to power a gaming console, this is outside the bubble, ladies and gentlemen, and it is hugely bullish if they can pull it off. Because again, remember, gamers dominate the world of all ages. We're talking young, we're talking old. Even my dad in his 50s was buying game consoles until he bought a PC and started doing PC gaming. It is hugely, hugely bullish, and trust me, if this is something they pull off, it creates a huge bullish sentiment. It changes the game. So far, we've been stuck with Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft for the main consoles. We have Steam for PC gaming to some degree. We have Epic for PC gaming to some degree. We have Microsoft to some degree. But for the most part, like Sega, when Sega left the business, we didn't have strong competition. Nobody pushing us to the next level. For those that don't know, Sega was one of the first to actually implement what we now know of as online gaming. They were one of the first to push that envelope. It wasn't Sony, it was Sega. Microsoft came after the fact. Sony came after the fact with the Xbox and the PS2 respectively. So now what I was excited about with Zilliqa when I covered it is if you can pull this off, you have now a huge, think about the freemium games, right? With the drop boxes and the free-to-play games, and you think about the online digital streaming games, subscription-based games, physical games, anything. And now you tie that to a blockchain, you tie that to Web3 technologies. and you change the game, and you can somehow tie this, somehow, I don't know the answer, you somehow tie this to a profit potential. It has no limit. It has no ceiling. So Zilliqa is certainly on my Fav5 now as something to keep an eye on. That's if they can pull it off. If they can't, obviously they fall off the Fav5. That's my Fav5, ladies and gentlemen. So for the tribe member, thank you for the recommendation that I update that, because I did forget to do that. And that's what we got, and that's the rest of my episode. I will shut up now and see if I got any questions. I see we got a few people here with us. Have any questions? I will answer those as I wrap up. Twitch looks good so far. Cool beans. If something comes to you after the fact, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thank you for listening in. If you listened in live, thank you for listening in. If you joined after the fact, we did shift the time up a little bit. I don't mind keeping the time slot. The reason I didn't do it before is because my neighbor's an idiot. They like to play all sorts of garbage, and I didn't want that to disrupt, but it looks like they didn't do it. So I'm happy to do this as a recurrent time slot if it makes it easier for people to try to join us live. I will be again doing LUNC Challenge Burn next week based on the stats of this episode. So I'm excited for that as a community member that I am. And next week, I'm going to be talking, because we're going to be getting close to that election season. So there'll be a little bit more chatter about what I see in the people, whether they come in or they go out, and what I think that means for cryptocurrency going forward. In the meantime, though, once again, thank you for joining, whether live or after the fact, and I will see you all